The way you handle criticism as an athlete will have a direct impact on your confidence, the ability you have to learn from mistakes, and also the fear with which you play. The reason that it hurts your confidence is because when you take criticism personally, so for example, let's say that your coach criticizes you after a game and says that, you weren't playing the way that they know that you can play. Fill in the blank for your specific sport and what your coach might tell you. If you take that to mean, oh, coach doesn't think that I'm good enough, and then you internalize it, and then you beat yourself up, and your self-talk, your internal dialogue gets negative, you're going to see your confidence drop because you're thinking poorly about yourself. And it's the idea of thinking, oh, I'm not good enough because coach said this. This is also true if the criticism comes from your parents, your teammates, or anybody else, right? But when you experience that criticism and then you feel like you're not good enough, that takes a toll on your confidence. Now, when it comes to learning from mistakes, the reason that this becomes impacted in a negative way when you have a tough time handling criticism is because criticism in and of itself points to areas that need improvement. Now, I know, just like sometimes the criticism that you get from coaches or parents or anybody else is not needed. You may even know what you need to work on. You may have had a pretty decent game, but you just have an overly critical coach or parent or teammate or a friend or anybody, and they're nitpicking and finding reasons to criticize you when in all reality, you should feel good about your performance. But there are those times where the criticism it's kind of needed in a sense because you did make mistakes. You didn't perform up to your potential. Now, the way in which people, give you that feedback, in the best case scenario, right, what we would like to have in a perfect world is that feedback is given in a very constructive way, though it's not always the case with your coaches, parents, or anybody else, right? But again, that criticism is likely pointing to areas of your game that need to be worked on. But if you take that criticism so personally, you internalize it, you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, I suck, I'm terrible, because they point out these flaws, you're not looking at those areas and those things that need to be worked on in as constructive or productive of a way. And so you're going to overlook them. You're not going to actually apply them in the way that you need to apply them. And if you do work on them, you might be working on them from a point of low confidence and doubt. And now you're going to start criticizing yourself. So this is something else I see happen a lot where you receive that feedback and then you internalize it, you take it personally, and then you're not able to actually work on it in the best way possible. And then how it impacts the fear with which you play is that if I, for example, if I play for a coach who tends to criticize me after every mistake, and I know that criticism, I know kind of logically that criticism is trying to help me, but it's just really hard to deal with. What do you think will happen to the way I see mistakes? Will I tend to see mistakes more as, things I can work on, ways to improve? Or is it likely that I'll start to see mistakes as reasons why I'm not good enough? I'll probably see mistakes as reasons why I'm not good enough. So then what will happen? Will I be, playing freely and think, okay, it's fine if I make a mistake. I need to just play 100%. If I make a mistake, I'll work on it. Or will I think, okay, I need to make no mistakes today so that coach doesn't criticize me and coach thinks I played well? I'll probably have that second type of thinking, but unfortunately, if I think that way, I'm likely to play to avoid mistakes and play with the fear of making mistakes, which inevitably leads to more mistakes and causes me to underperform. So when we know that criticism or taking criticism poorly leads to low confidence, it makes it difficult for us to learn from mistakes, and then it also increases fear, among anxiety and many other things, right? We know that we need to learn how to handle criticism in a more productive way. Now, the way that I want to talk to you about this today has to do with the way that you manage the criticism you receive. There's probably an opportunity for a whole other episode talking about, better ways for coaches or parents to, give criticism to athletes, and I will make an episode on that in the future. But this episode is focused primarily on you as the athlete and how you can handle criticism. And the reason that I say that is because if that's the case, we have to go into this assuming that we cannot change the way somebody else is giving us that criticism or feedback, but we can change the way that we receive that criticism or feedback. And that's what I want us to focus on right now. Now, I do want to say that I'm by no means somebody that takes criticism very well. I struggled with it for the whole time I was playing baseball, and I admittedly struggle with it right now. Taking criticism is very difficult, especially when we know deep down that it's kind of true, right? Like, oh, you're not really hitting as well as I know you can. And then if I know that I'm not really hitting as well, I'm probably going to be feeling pretty down on myself because I know they're right. But I also know that, okay, I need to work on that. And then we get into this tough cycle of, well, how do I work on that even though I'm feeling down on myself, right? So the tips that I have for you as to how you can handle criticism better and feedback better as an athlete, it focuses primarily on a mindset shift that we need to make as athletes. And then it focuses on what you do with the information after you receive it. So the first thing is that mindset shift. The mindset shift is seeing anything that anybody gives you in terms of feedback or criticism as an opportunity for you to get better. I know that sounds kind of like a cheesy thing or a corny thing for me to say, but it's the truth, and it's the way we have to view it, because we also know that if we're currently struggling with handling criticism, and if you're listening or watching this episode and you're currently struggling with criticism, you're probably not seeing it that way. Maybe you try to logically think of it that way, but the truth is you're probably seeing it as them pointing out your flaws and telling you the reasons why you're not good enough. So we have to shift the way we're thinking when it comes to the feedback we receive and see it as an opportunity to learn and improve, and see it simply as information. And this is the hardest thing to do when you receive criticism from your coach in the form of yelling, or you feel like your parents are disappointed in you. But again, we're trying to push past all the ways people are speaking to us and push past the emotions that are attached to it, and we're just trying to find the information. And that's going to be helpful when we take this approach of anything that somebody tells me is told to me as an opportunity for me to get better. And the reason they're telling it to me is because they want me to get better, not because they think that I'm not good enough. And again, this is all about the way you're changing the way you see what they tell you and the way you see criticism and feedback. And we have to try to make this mindset shift first, because again, we cannot change the way they're talking to us. So that's the first thing that you need to do. You need to try to work on seeing their feedback, seeing their criticism as an opportunity for you to get better, and seeing it as coming from them because they want you to get better, not because they don't think you're good enough. Now, the second part of this is what we do with the information that we receive. My favorite thing to do, personally, and also what I kind of recommend to all the athletes I work with, is that I always recommend you take the information they give you, the criticism they give you, and you write down what they are saying. The reason we want to write it down is because when we write things down like that, we take them out of our head and we stop internalizing them as much. And so we can honestly see, okay, coach thinks that I'm not fast enough right now. Coach thinks that I'm being lazy with my passes. My parents think that I'm not giving enough effort during the game. All right, so I have that information written down. And then you want to objectively look at it and ask yourself the question, how can I improve this? Because again, in order for us to handle the criticism better and handle the feedback better, we have to be looking at it through the lens of improvement. So how can I get better at this? How do I improve this? And then I would encourage you to write down an action plan. What are you going to work on during practice? How will you approach this during practice? If you have another game, what will you focus on, or what objectives will you set or adjustments will you make to work on that and improve it for practice? Right? So the simplest example I can give you is that if coach or your parents or anybody else tells you that you don't look like you are giving as much effort as you need to be giving, what you would want to do going into your next game is simply set the objective of saying, by the end of the game, I want to have taken my energy bar, right? So the bar that I would have in my head that measures the amount of effort I give, I want to drain it all the way down to zero, which means no matter what happens, nobody's going to be able to say that I didn't give enough effort, right? That's a very simple example. If you are a tennis player and your coach is criticizing you and saying you that your backhands aren't very good, well, then maybe during practice or extra work that you can put in, you want to focus primarily on those backhands. Because again, as athletes, one of our main goals should be to always be improving. It's very easy, though, to slip into the mindset of thinking, I need to be perfect today. And then if you want to be perfect today, if you're trying to perform today, whether it's a game or a practice, and you want everybody else to think that you're a great player, then it's natural to take criticism and feedback as the indication that you're not good enough and you're not as good as you want to be. However, if we come at this criticism, this feedback with the with the mindset already of I'm just wanting to get better every single day. So any information that anybody gives me, no matter how they tell it to me, I can use that to improve. If we have that attitude and then we actually take what they say, we write it down, we get specific and we create an action plan for ourselves and we start working on that, all of a sudden we will be handling criticism better. But again, we also have to understand that we're humans and it is tough to receive criticism and feedback. So I just wanted to give you those 2 tips as a way for you to begin handling criticism better for yourself as an athlete. Now, I mentioned one-on-one coaching earlier, or the athletes that I work with, and so I do offer a 12-week one-on-one coaching program where I'll work directly with you on improving your mental game. So if you are interested in learning more about that, I've put a link to it in the description below. And I also offer an online course, 2 online courses actually. One is the Confident Competitor Academy that helps athletes go from playing with fear and anxiety to playing with confidence. And then the other one is the Mentally Tough Kid that's specifically for youth athletes. If you're interested in either of those programs, I've put links to them in the description below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.